It's November 22nd, 2020, and welcome to episode 46 of the Baby Metal Podcast. We gather in the podcast Discord server on alternate weeks to discuss news and thoughts on the past and future projects of Baby Metal. We invite you to join us, whether you're a longtime fan or have only just arrived. I am Paul, and I am joined by Kevin.
Hello, welcome back.
And Kelly.
Hello, everyone.
Recording on a day with many twos. That's pretty nice. November 22nd, 2020.
Ah, yes.
Of course, everybody's going to hear it in a week, but nevertheless, it's pretty cool. It's been a month since we recorded last, just because last recording didn't work. So there's actually a lot of stuff that's happened.
Yeah.
Oh, so much.
We're a little behind.
Yeah. I was just sort of reviewing things before, and we didn't even talk about Kingslayer. We talked about the fact that it was about to be out.
Yeah.
But
right.
So anyway, I guess so. What the plan is to talk about the news for a bit, and then the main topic for today will be, assuming we actually get there, we'll be talking about this Kadokawa magazine book thing that came out. We now have it. We have some machine translations and things, and there's interesting stuff to talk about in there. So that's going to be the plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The first thing I have on the news list is the collaboration with Bring Me the Horizon, Kingslayer. So Bring Me the Horizon released an EP called Post-Human Survival Horror on October 30th, and it contains, among other things, Itch for the Cure, which is a kind of like a little prologue song that happens to contain a little bit of Baby Metal in it, and then Kingslayer featuring Baby Metal, which is actually, featuring Baby Metal. So now that we've all heard it, what do you think?
Amazing.
I think Callie liked it so much, she dressed up for Halloween.
Oh, yeah. Totally obsessed. Oh, it's just so refreshing. I just love it.
Yeah, and it's I think it's getting a lot of attention too. I mean, so there's a video for it, which is basically just the lyrics stylized over the music, and it has 4.2 million views as of sometime yesterday.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So a lot of people are aware of it, and so it might actually serve as a fairly good window, back into this group from people who might not have been thinking about them much.
God, it's almost more featuring Bring Me the Horizon, right? Like, I think Baby Metal features more time behind the mic than they do in that song.
It's possible. There's a lot of ways in which it kind of feels like, at least there are parts of it that really feel like just a regular Baby Metal song. I mean, Ollie is doing essentially the growl, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
We usually have. It's not the kind of thing that you would, play for your 6-year-old. But actually, I thought that was kind of, so the English words are a bit coarse, you might say. But I thought it was kind of interesting that they segmented it pretty, carefully in a way. Like, Baby Metal's not doing anything coarse.
No. Everything
they do is perfectly, fine. And it's actually, it's relatively upbeat. It's not angry. It's kind of like, let's fight together.
Mm-hmm.
Which, so I thought that was kind of nice that it blended I presume at least their brands fairly well. So Callie, you know Bring Me the Horizon relatively well, right?
Yeah. I actually saw them when when Baby Metal played at Reading Festival. They're on the same stage on the same day. Mm-hmm. So that whole stage, I saw every band on that stage, including Bring Me the Horizon and Baby Metal. So yeah, I've been probably listening to about 5 years. So I'm not like an original fan, but I like more of their newer stuff rather than their like old stuff. But yeah, it's such a good song. It kind of just, Ollie, like at the beginning, just kind of introduces it with his normal kind of like Bring Me the Horizon songs, and then Baby Metal just come in and it just changes it, and it just makes it so, so good.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear it live.
That'd be a fun collaboration.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe they'll do it later next year. Isn't Bring Me the Horizon already booking concerts?
Yeah, in when is it? September, October, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds crazy far away.
It does.
But yeah, it's interesting. I was aware of Bring Me the Horizon primarily just because they kept getting mentioned, in Baby Metal things. This EP is really the only thing that I've listened to anytime recently, but I get very strong like Nine Inch Nails vibes from it.
Okay.
It does really feel very inspired or in the same, coming from the same universe.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, which is fine. I like Nine Inch Nails a lot, or at least I used to listen to them a lot back before I listened to only Baby Metal. But so yeah, there's a couple of things. We have Ollie Sykes from Bring Me the Horizon talking to a couple of cameras about this. Consequence of Sound has a little interview where they sort of ask him about the collaboration, and kind of, I guess, actually a little bit also about their history together. And then New Music Express has a thing that sort of goes through song by song. So he also talks a bit about Kingslayer and specifically. I forget. I don't think actually Baby Metal really gets mentioned in the Itch for a Cure thing. I think that's exciting. That's cool. It's like new music.
My cat. Shush.
Yeah. I think the cat approved last time too.
Yay. Yeah, he did. Good boy.
That's great.
Okay. Anyway, so I guess that's enough for that news, unless there's anything else anyone wanted to say.
No.
I guess it's brought in a bunch of reactions that might not have otherwise appeared. Also, the this quiz for becoming an evangelist has continued. So I think we're on question 7 now. The questions aren't really getting any harder.
No, they're not.
I have to say that the last couple questions, so we're on number 7, and the last couple, I didn't really know. I mean, so I think the 6th one had to do with like what the name of the special ticket was. Your options were like gold, premium, special, and lucky. And then the most recent one had to do with like what color the light was.
Right.
And so the options were red, blue, yellow, and orange. And it seems like, all right, yellow and orange we can dismiss. But either red or blue could be perfectly possible without actually knowing anything about the question, or other than the fact that it was just about a light.
I'd say you could rule out blue.
Blue is pretty well, but think about Starlight.
I guess.
It's a very blue song. Maybe they've only been using blue more recently. But anyway, whatever. The answer was red. So
the questions post so infrequently that I always forget it exists until I see somebody tweet about it.
Yeah, it's really dragging on.
It really is. I feel like it's been going on for a month.
Yeah, and once has it?
I think it has.
Yeah, but and once we get to the end, then we get a lottery, and somebody gets a little like participation certificate,
right?
Saying you answered 10 easy questions, and we're lucky.
You're an evangelist.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
It kind of seems like we should just, by virtue of this podcast, be getting certificates, right? But yeah, anyway. All right. So we'll assume that we'll probably wrap up at some time in the not so distant future. So we have a date now for the Rockmecon stream. So that's exciting. It is December 12th. I guess we don't know too much more yet about that. The doors open at 8.
Yeah.
And it starts at 9.
Oh, it'll be so exciting.
Yeah, I am really curious to see how that turns out. But so the way they did this, somewhere in the email that they sent out, they said basically this is intended to be kind of like a special thing for the, to reward the support of the members of the One, essentially, and to help out the venue crew
by taking their money.
Well, and hopefully distributing it to the venue crew. But yeah, so it's a little complicated. So the way it works is the ticket is free, but you have to buy a t-shirt. So it's a little bit like the One.
Right.
It's a long sleeve t-shirt. And there's a couple other things you can get. So you can get a full outfit. You can get little, I don't know what they call them, bone bottoms.
Yeah.
The bone glove.
Yeah, the glove and the towel.
Yeah.
And the hoodie.
Oh, and the wristband.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have to get the long sleeve tee, but you can get the other things if you want to continue to fully dress up.
Complete the outfit.
Oh, and there's a hoodie too. Yeah.
Yep.
So I jumped on it, and but I only got the towel.
Oh no!
You don't want the full bone?
No.
Come on, Paul.
No.
Next time you go to a show, you can be totally decked out.
Because that's the thing. I mean, like, when am I going to wear this?
No. Only
Under what
show.
circumstance?
We record every 2 weeks. You could dress up.
That's true.
if we ever do this podcast over video, maybe we can dress up.
There you go.
Right, so we can see the cat approving.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, so it was somewhere in between, convenient and inconvenient for the non-Japanese fans. I think maybe it was on the edge of non-convenient. Because I think you have to get a Muse ID, right? I mean, the guy had one already, so I didn't have to go through that process, but I think it was actually kind of challenging if you were trying to race to get this done.
Yeah, it took me about 10 minutes to figure out exactly what I needed, and that my international A-Smart account didn't work for this. And I had to
that's
create
right.
the separate AID.
Yeah, I had the AID for some other reason. I think it was what are they called? Night of Speaka has a channel there that I paid for at one point, so I had this. Oh, maybe I needed it for Fresh. I don't remember.
No,
But,
not Fresh.
Eventually, it was possible to get a streaming ticket of a sort. What I don't understand, so, okay, let me back up a second. So you get this, you pay for this long sleeve tee. You get your golden ticket free of charge, and then any other merch. But it kind of seems to me like their intention is that the golden ticket is actually required to get in. Does that sound possible?
Yeah, maybe to log in to whatever we're watching it on.
Yeah, which means we are relying on DHL or the Post or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I
make it
didn't
in
even
time.
think about that.
Oh
So-
no.
I know. I'm really hoping that this reaches us in time.
Damn.
So we have, I don't know what we have, like 3 weeks, something like that. So it kind of, for all intents and purposes, it looks like we have an electronic ticket already. So I'm not sure exactly what role this golden ticket will play.
Yeah.
But
It's on. I haven't watched anything on live ship, but all these other, I've watched a crap load of Japanese bands play live online, and usually you just get emailed a link. Go here.
yeah. So my guess is that's probably what's happening, and the golden ticket is just like for fun.
Yeah, and I'm reading my email again. It says after logging in with your AID, you can access the viewing page from the URL below.
Oh, okay.
Or my page, ticket purchase information. So I don't think you need anything physical.
Yeah.
Though you might get a souvenir physical golden ticket or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Or maybe, who knows? Maybe it's a lottery that we get to win additional stuff. That seems not impossible, but anyway. So we're getting close. I'm really quite looking forward to seeing what they do.
Yeah.
Who knows? Because it does appear that there's not going to be anybody of note in the house. I mean, it's going to be, they have the whole place to themselves, basically.
Yeah,
Right.
so small.
Yeah. I hope they do something that kind of recalls the original show there. I don't know exactly how they would do that, but set up the stage.
The merch is all inspired by the original merchandise, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw that. The design on the towel and the design on the shirt is from the Corset Festival.
Yep.
So, which is really pretty cool. I like having Baby Metal written out in
Yes,
katakana.
I do too.
I think it is not deeply enough appreciated how funny that is. Anyway, yeah, I mean that was one of the things that struck me right at the beginning. I was like that the cleverness of turning heavy metal into baby metal with just a couple little tick marks is just I don't know, it's glorious. What do you call those? I don't know. Whatever, those little doohinkies that turns H into B.
1010.
10-10? Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Everything is 10. So, okay, next thing. So I think we actually didn't even talk about this last time because I think it all happened between last time and this time. But the BABYMETAL did this collaboration with PITTA masks. I don't actually know too much about this. They're, I guess just a brand name of mask that is quite possibly popular. And they've combined to have a design. So, I think it's basically a set that just has like the BABYMETAL, logo in the corner. But we got some new photos. We got some photos of them wearing them, and it comes in a box that has them on it.
Yep.
So it's necessary merch. Oh, I see. Yeah, no, with 3 different colors. It looks like there are 6 in the box with a red logo, white logo, and a red logo. So.
I did not enter the lottery.
You didn't? Oh,
yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, so there was a lottery, right? Yeah. I mean, I think they're going to sell them anyway, but the lottery was basically early access.
They're already on Osmart.
Are they? Okay.
Well, the page to buy them is, but I think there's another couple of weeks it says it goes live or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah. So they had a lottery, which, from what I understand, was pretty easy to win. So okay, so Kevin, you didn't enter. That explains why you didn't win.
I know nobody who lost.
I was pretty excited there for a while, but I'm feeling less and less special now.
No. I know one who lost. Someone called Logan. I'm pretty sure he didn't win, which is sad.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little uncool if the way to be special in this is to lose. But, yeah.
But so many people won. I saw a fan art comic strip about it. That was really funny. I'll see if I can dig it out while we move on. And
I assume that, I mean, it's a product, right? I mean, like, I assume it's not really all that limited. So once they become available, they're probably buyable. But it's pretty cool. What else? MTV's Video Music Awards Japan 2020 will air on November 29th, a week from recording. So did they record it already? I think they did. I think we have photos of them getting their award. We have photos, yeah. So it'll air on MTV Japan and Hulu Japan, neither of which I get. But soon there will be them performing Papaya and holding awards. Maybe saying something, I don't know. I think I would be more excited about this if it weren't in the middle of like a pile of bigger news. I think. But, yeah. Okay, so anyway, we'll talk more about them saying how excited they are to win the award next time and playing Papaya for the umpteenth time. What else? Sticking to that theme just a little bit, we learned that they're playing at the 71st edition of Kohaku. I don't know what this is, except that it's a pretty big deal. So I think it's the analogy I've seen is that it's essentially something like New Year's Rockin' Eve in
yeah.
But it's basically being played. It's a big New Year's Eve show that many people watch in Japan. It's kind of an honor to be invited. There are speculations that BABYMETAL has been invited before and turned them down, but I don't know how true that is. But this is their first time being on it. Oh, that's what that cartoon is. Okay, I'd seen this. Skipping back for a second, but I'd seen this fan art, but I didn't actually understand what it was saying. Yeah.
Yes, Sue and Moa took all the negatives, like little lottery balls with X's on them, out, and then hid them. And Koba's standing in the background, confused.
I see.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, back to the Kohaku.
The closest analogy I can get to it is New Year's Rockin' Eve in the U.S. Mm-hmm. Also been suggested maybe Super Bowl halftime show. Mm-hmm. As far as cultural reach.
So it'll be super prominent.
I guess. I don't want to cast such a wide net to say that, everybody watches this thing in Japan, because I just don't know. I haven't asked a Japanese person just how many people a year watch this. I did do a little bit of research, and at one time it was the most watched television program in the country of Japan, but that was in I think the early 90s.
Right.
So who knows how many people are still watching. I'm sure it's not an insignificant amount, but maybe not as many as it used to be. And
that's probably exactly parallel to New Year's Rockin' Eve.
Exactly. Just like New Year's Rockin' Eve. So,
yeah, there's some kind of competition aspect to it that I don't fully understand, but it's essentially kind of like female groups versus male groups via vote by judges and possibly audience.
Yeah, red team versus white team.
And so I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure what that means either. I didn't get that far.
Yeah. There's some photos that are related to it already out. This is NHK, the channel that's doing this. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what this means that there are photos. Maybe there are photos of the press events announcing it. I'm assuming they haven't actually performed to something that's going to be played.
Yeah, no, the photos are from the press event that just shows everybody who's performing.
Okay.
And I guess since it's red versus white, it's kind of tradition for the people on their team to wear that color. So it's actually really pretty funny seeing the large group of people performing and then BABYMETAL in their battle outfits in black and gold because they stand out very prominently.
I mean, they might have anyway, but yeah, it would have been interesting if they had, well, I suppose they still could show up in a themed costume, but
I think that's pretty unlikely, but
yeah.
It's funny seeing a bunch of people dressed in white and then Sue and Moa.
Yeah. And well, actually there's another group of people there who maybe are the judges or something, who are in black. But yeah, it is pretty bizarre.
Yeah. Darren says red is female artists, white is male artists.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't love that part, the competition part, but I mean, I guess that's somehow, part of the game. Okay, so it's Thursday, December 31st, between 7:30 p.m. and just about midnight, Japan time. Let's see. Other big things. Let's see. Holiday sweater and cap are available.
Yay.
I just let that pass me by.
I got the beanie.
You did?
I did.
Okay.
I didn't get anything.
I did not get the sweater.
I'm only just now remembering that I think this is... it's the US and UK stores only.
Yeah.
So it's not even smart at all. Right. So it feels only sort of partially official, although I guess we have a photo of them holding the things. So
and I probably won't get it until summer next year.
That's right. About the right time. Yeah. I'd forgotten about the photo. Having the photo of them hold it, that makes it slightly more official.
Yeah, I'm not into ugly Christmas sweaters.
No.
Yeah. This one I say is less ugly.
It is less ugly than years previous.
Yeah, it's not just like the, whatever I don't even know what to call that face that they put on the ugly sweater before, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought the beanie was okay. I don't have a red and black beanie. Right. Why not?
Why not, indeed? I mean, yeah. Okay, so let's see what else. We have. I think since we recorded last, they also announced what the tracks were on the best album, and we're getting pretty close actually to that showing up, right? I mean, like we're a month away now.
Yeah.
But showing up in the sense of leaving a muse, I guess.
Right.
But so we have Doki Doki Morning, Headbanger, IDZ, Magitsune, Gimme Chocolate, Road of Resistance, Karate, The One, Distortion, and Papaya. And they're allegedly remastered. So we heard something about them being remastered. Remastered by Ted Jensen, who also remastered the Budokan release. Budokan sounds really good too, by the way. So
yeah, it does.
Is promising.
Yeah, he doesn't mess around. Ted Jensen's pretty famous. He's really good. I expect it to sound great.
Yeah, I am optimistic, particularly because they sound terrible on the album.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we love the songs and all, but they are all maxed out in an incredible way.
Yep.
So hopefully that'll be slightly different. We know what the covers look like too. I mean, there's no particular surprises in the covers. One of the covers is the gold, the new gold picture of them. And then the other ones are, they have kind of like a brassy, bronzy BABYMETAL logo over, I think, what is the one? Let's see. First Press Limited Edition C has something in the background, But
yeah, it's like an arena.
Okay. And I guess we now have images of what the store bonuses are. What's interesting, I mean, a lot of them is just that same art. I think the Osmart postcards or sticker sheet is interesting because it has album cover art. So including some of this, like the first and second album's special edition art. Mm-hmm. And Toy Store, the Toys Factory store has postcards that are from they're basically the singles album art.
Yeah,
which is those are pretty cool, actually. That's right. Actually, the one of the versions of this comes with 10 sort of like slip covers for albums. Mm-hmm. I've never quite understood that, but I mean, anyway, they're basically like 12-inch by 12-inch posters, I suppose, ultimately that are thick, and so you can't lay them flat. I don't know. I mean, I don't really understand this because I don't have 12 albums to put them on, and I want to see the underlying art on the album too. So I don't know. I don't understand what the purpose of these is, but they're basically it looks like they are inspired by. Well, there are 10 of them, so it's possible that they're inspired by some image from each era or something. It's not really clear what the theme is, but a couple of them are like the special edition first, or whatever it is, limited first press edition of the first album. Mm-hmm. Limited first press edition of the second album. But what's kind of strange about them is that for the first album one, they just kind of like superimposed modern photos of them over top of it.
Yeah.
And in general, that's what they did for all of them, just superimposed modern photos. But it's the weirdest one is for the limited edition album art for the Metal Resistance album, where there used to be 3 of them standing there, and now there are 2.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't. I don't know. I mean, I think that makes it. I think it's pretty clear that Yui is not available for any new material, and these are new. And we were told they were fresh, right, Kevin? You were saying that you thought it was free range.
They're free range photos.
Yeah,
hot off the press.
But so they could not have included Yui, but I think I sort of feel like I feel like they could have modified that one less. But anyway, actually they should have just stood in front of the people so you couldn't see them behind them. But anyway, yeah. And we don't see all of them. We can kind of guess at what some of them are, but they may have something to do with the episodes, or they may have something to do with just the years. I'm not sure, but there are 10 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's basically it for the best album tracks. I mean, like, we know that we'll get a Blu-ray of those as well. Okay, so probably the biggest news, right? Is it the biggest news? Is the Budokan 10?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it's news. Is it big news? I don't know.
BABYMETAL has a long history of announcing that they're going to announce something at some point.
And don't.
The actual announcement is, I don't know, Kevin, are you still unsure about what this means?
Yes and no. I get different answers from everybody I talk to.
Yeah. Well, okay, so what they're announcing is 10 something at Nippon Budokan in 2021.
Yeah.
So in 2021 they are going to be playing at Budokan again. They use a character in this announcement, and everybody mimics this. I mean, it's on the poster, it's in the Natalie article, it's in their announcement of it. They use a character for performance that is kind of unusual in this context. So mostly people have assumed that what this means is, and I think this is what I'm assuming too, that it means they're going to play 10 times in Budokan. It's unclear what else it could be, but it's still possibly strange that they're using that character. And apparently, so Kevin, you've consulted with Japanese speakers who also find that character weird and somewhat unclear.
Yeah. So the confusion is, it's common when you're describing a one show, one performance. Come here to see this thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's weird that they're saying 10 of these using that character.
Yeah. But maybe that makes it even clearer. Well, okay, so the one thing that I take on the side of there being 10 shows is that they do say this is like a new big challenge for them, and it wouldn't be a new big challenge if it was just playing the Budokan again.
Yeah, I don't think it's 10 shows of Budokan.
Okay.
I think it's something like the trilogy culminating in the Budokan.
That's an interesting take I had not thought of.
Yeah. I was thinking of it logistically. I was like, okay, if you go look at the Budokan, it's pretty booked because it's Budokan, even during COVID. If you look at it next year, there's a lot of stuff going on. Mm-hmm. Booking it for 10 shows, even if you do it 10 nights in a row, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of effing money for a music to sink into this. Like, I would wager that that's more than it would have cost to put on Tokyo Dome by a non-insignificant margin. So I have a hard time believing that they booked the Budokan for 10 shows.
Yeah, well, and if it's late 2021, then Budokan probably isn't hurting for demand.
Yeah, that too. And even if they spread it out, like the logistics of that are just kind of mind blowing to me.
But it's big too. They almost. Could they fill 10 is a big number.
Budokan's actually not that big.
Oh, maybe it's binary. Maybe there's just 2 shows.
What? You lost me.
Maybe it's 1-0. Maybe it's binary.
Ah, yeah, there you go.
Oh. Ooh.
That would be much more.
You heard it here first.
Comprehensible.
But yeah, Budokan is like a fraction the size of Tokyo Dome. So I think they could fill 10 shows there. I think that's possible. I can't see him investing that much into booking the Budokan for 10 nights.
Yeah.
10 live nights, not including the time to set up, tear down, and all that stuff. Because, once the concert's set up, Budokan can't do anything else there. So you're renting the thing for 240 hours. Right?
Minimally. Yeah.
Minimally. So, yeah, I don't see 10 shows of Budokan. I think we're going to see something like a tour of the country culminating in a weekend of Budokan or something.
Yeah. The only other thing I can think is that they do like to go big and ridiculous. So, this would be big and ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
I could be totally wrong. I mean, I don't know how I'd feel about being wrong. Part of me would rather, I think, travel around and see more of Japan if I go. Well, right. I would go. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know. Like it's cool, but I think that's too much. If it were all 10 at Budokan.
Well, imagine, so you have to get independent tickets too, right?
Yeah.
So.
Christ, it would be expensive.
The competition would be just ridiculous. They'd have to do a lottery, wouldn't they?
Yeah, there will be 1 lotteries for sure.
And if they were sensible, they'd do. I wonder if they would do a lottery where what you enter for is a ticket for a night. So
so one person doesn't get to go to every single one. Right. That's if it is 10, but
until those tickets start flying around.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. I'm really curious to see what they're going to announce at Rockmacon.
Oh, did they say that they were going to give more details then?
Maybe they did.
They did. Yeah. At the end of that performance, we're going to get more details on it. So we don't have to wait too long to get more information. Whether that will be information that satisfies our curiosity remains to be seen, I suppose.
Still doesn't give us a date.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's worth mentioning too that it's one of the, if you recall on the 10 Baby Metal Years website, there was a bunch of question marks of things yet to be announced. This filled the spot of one of those things.
Yep. Which means there are 4 left.
There are 4 left. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I forget there were a couple of things that didn't fill that spot, like the whatever it is, the BABYMETAL didn't, and whatever. There are a couple things, but yeah. So the other things that are on there are the best album, the Rockman show, the quiz, the Evangelist quiz, the Kadokawa volume, which we will eventually talk about, the songs tournament, and then the 4 remaining slots. So, and we still don't know. I don't think the last thing of the best album either. Like there's one more version of the best album that nobody's bought yet.
Oh yeah, true.
And you never know. They may still be debating what that is.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Surely these remaining 4 items are more ways to take our money.
I'm sure they won't be free things. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else that news-wise we should talk about?
No.
No, I think we got it all.
Okay. Yeah, so that was a lot.
In a brisk 40 minutes.
Yeah, I was just looking at my timer and saying, yeah, that's this could have been an episode. I wonder. It's conceivable it will be, but I don't know how to edit that together. So behind the scenes, we talked so long about the news that we didn't actually get to the topic that we intended to talk about. And the topic was going to be the Kadokawa magazine book thing that came out, and we all now have, and in fact have some translations for. So we can probably dive right into that, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. It's really big. So,
and that's it for this episode.
I mean, it's what did we decide? 228 by 200 and
almost 230 pages, something like that.
Yeah. And it's got a lot of sections to it. So, I mean, there's a bunch of like sort of interviews from people. There's messages from people. There's like the thing that probably we are most interested in, perhaps, are these spiritual messages, which are like a sequence of 5 interviews from, interviews with Tsu Metal, Mo Metal, and Koba Metal. And they are very long. Or they take up, possibly the majority, at least half of this whole thing. But there's also, cool photos of various things, and there's messages from artists. There's some interviews with people and things like that. So I think we have access to the English translations of a few things and a couple of things that were just originally in English. So there's some messages from like Slipknot and Rob Halford and stuff like that were in English anyway. And I think so we can sort of maybe talk about those things that are in English. Does that seem good?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good.
Sure.
Okay. So we all have this in our hands after a bit of effort locating them. But so I think we can kind of just sort of flip through it and then talk about the things that we have translations for or are just photos on the way. Does that seem right?
Yeah.
And I guess we talked about the cover already.
And I just flipped through my book really heavily, so enjoy editing that out.
Yeah. That's all right. No. Well, I mean, it's Foley, right?
Yeah.
So the very first thing that's in here is a little they call it special gravure, which is basically just a little photo shoot of them. Any thoughts on that?
This is, I think, the best photo shoot they've done.
Yeah.
These photos are incredible.
They're stunning.
Well lit, interesting poses, unique, new. They look like models. They crushed it.
Yeah.
Everybody involved crushed this photo shoot.
They really do.
It is by far my favorite photo shoot.
They are almost entirely without exception, very serious in these photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one photo where Sue has kind of a smile. That is it.
I think my favorite ones are the ones where they've got the veil over them. They're just so beautiful. It's such a good idea.
Yeah, props add a really fun dimension to portraits.
Yeah, and like the added effects of like the little orbs that they got on their hands.
Yeah, there are a couple of photos with like little lasers and things.
Yeah, and fire.
Yeah, and it's not to say that the photos are like they look angry or mean or anything. Like they look like models. It's that kind of that blank 1,000-yard stare into the camera.
Like I'm thinking something more important than you.
Exactly.
But yeah, they're just they're so like natural.
Yeah, like you can see these in a Vogue.
Yeah.
That by itself was worth it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I would kill to have the digital versions of these for wallpaper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and of course there are a few that are split across the pages, so it'll be hard to scan them. I mean, you could demolish the book and maybe scan them, but it would be nice to have an original digital version.
Yeah, definitely.
Then the next thing up is the table of contents, which has what you would expect in it. So we can probably move on. Now, okay, so the first thing is the spiritual message from Sue. So the way these spiritual messages are organized is that basically they're covering eras, right? So they're split into 5 eras. The first is like founding to 2014, and then the next eras are 2014, 15, 16, 17, 17, 18, and 19, 20. So not too surprising. So essentially the idea is that the discussion, it focuses around the era that they're talking about. So this is Sue talking about the initial years, right? But maybe I'll also say that, so what we have available to us as far as translation go is we have this DeepL service that has been sent a transcription that Lenser did. And so Lenser did this fantastic thing, which is basically, I think, scanning and OCRing the articles and then fixing it so that the actual Japanese is correct. So the transcription, we have a Japanese transcription of this, which is nearly completely correct.
Super helpful.
Yeah. So then we fed this to DeepL, and DeepL has, it does a pretty good job. I only became aware actually of DeepL fairly recently. I don't know if it's how new it is, but people have basically considered it to be a step above Google Translate in a lot of cases.
Yeah, definitely.
So Sue talks a little bit about the first time hearing Doki Doki Morning, finding it sort of confusing, and actually also some discussion about how it had evolved.
Mm-hmm.
But she mentioned that Magitsune, which is of course one of the early songs, she considers that even now a challenging, like a song to practice, like that it's still challenging to her. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think she said that before.
Yeah.
Too, because it hits her entire range.
She talked, I guess this basically ended at Budokan. So she talked a bit about having the dream of, being at Budokan since she was small, and it came true. I think she was also talking a bit about like how she sort of recognized the view from her dream or something like that. We actually have one other person has done little fragments of translations of these articles, and there's a chunk in here where it was translated. We see both the DeepL translation and this other person's, but Capable Paramedic did a translation of this too. But I think DeepL actually did a pretty passable job. But it was talking about basically in IDZ, Sue losing track of the rhythm.
Anecdotally, she mentions that she remembers during IDZ she lost track of the rhythm, and then she had to listen back to the band, and she picked up on the snare drum to kind of figure out where she was again. I love little moments like that because it kind of humanizes them, right? Because from the crowd you wouldn't have known that, And I think stuff like that is super interesting, and this whole mook is kind of filled with little moments like that. She also goes on to say that moment was probably just an instant, but it felt like a really long time.
Yeah. And there are a couple of places where, errors of that sort were mentioned throughout here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of them as essentially making no errors ever.
No.
So it's really weird to hear about these. And I have not since reading this gone back and looked at any of these places where there are alleged errors. But I would be interested to know if I could see the moment where she was confused.
That's an interesting thought. That would be fun to go look at.
Yeah. but yeah, she definitely. I mean, she said basically that this sort of helped her realize the extent to which they're all kind of in this together. You know, that it's not just her, you know, leading BABYMETAL and MOMO, you know, that the band is supporting all of them and leading Sue as well. So she talked about it as like being lost in the fog in the forest and being let out by the sunlight of the snare drum, which is kind of cool imagery.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So in this section of the MOOC, we have it's sort of switched to black and white, you know, just because it's not a fully color glossy thing. So we're now in a sort of like grayscale photos, but we continue to have, you know, photo shoot photos and some images from, I mean, because they're grayscale, they're actually not great, but some images from Legend IDZ and some other stuff.
I would call them newspaper quality.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay. It's actually quite a bit like what you would expect from a Hedabon magazine too.
Yeah,
they're organized like this a lot too. Okay, and then so the next part is the spiritual message number 1 from BABYMETAL. Honestly, well, okay, yeah, Moa is really something in this whole whole book.
She's really personable and quite funny in this, I have to say.
Yeah, it's pretty great. But so I mean, they start talking about this the time when it started, and like she sort of leads off by saying, well, you know, I was 10. I mean, you know, I didn't know what's going on. She mentioned knowing this anime K-On, and I don't know K-On, but apparently it is an anime from a manga that has to do with basically like a bunch of girls getting together and making a band called the Light Music Club. And I assumed, or at least gathered, that the, you know, Heavy Music Club is, you know, just a sort of like a funny play on that, which of course is like the Sakura Gakuin name for BABYMETAL, Jonbu. But I didn't know K-On before.
It's a pretty funny little anime. I actually enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Very different though, but it's because I've seen it. I think it's pretty funny because it's not even remotely related to anything BABYMETAL. Mm-hmm. Like, so to have that reference as her frame of mind going into this, I think is really pretty funny.
Yeah. But I mean, way at the beginning, like the 2010 time, I mean, like they didn't really know what they were going to be. Like, I mean, like I think a lot of this stuff came into focus quite a bit later. So it was everything was puns on, you know, existing cultural stuff. or on like
yeah.
Well, like the name BABYMETAL coming from heavy metal, and you know, like the Heavy Music Club coming from the Light Music Club,
mm-hmm.
which probably everybody knew. You know, everybody you know, sort of either in or the target audience of Sakura Gakuin.
Yeah, K-On was pretty popular when it aired. It aired about 10 years ago, actually, I think.
Yeah, so my guess, right, it was probably in the air at the time.
Yeah.
And I guess they so Mo talked a little bit also about the live band. You know, so I guess you know, this, because this was the era that was ending in 2014. That's kind of like the end of that is when the Kami band, you know, started joining them. And Moa said that made a big difference. That it made her dance feel crisper. I don't know what crisper means, but that's what she said.
Yeah.
And she did say, like, she jumped into the present a bit. Talked about how they've gotten stronger. They've been sort of more able to deal with problems. And she mentioned being unfazed by an audience member on the stage. I don't actually remember that ever happening.
I don't remember that ever happening either.
When was that?
So
if anybody knows when and where that happened, let us know.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it sounds to me like it was something like a stage diver or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
From the days of old, when you could actually be up against the stage and not many feet away. But apparently, you know, according to Mo's report, they just kept going. They were freaked out, but they just kept going. And she also said, I would like recently at overseas shows, things can fly in the air. And she was basically saying, yeah, but we just perform anyway. Of course, that's a bit scary, so we want people to be careful. Don't throw things. And in fact, I'd like to take this opportunity to say, throwing dame zatai. which is great. I actually had to go back and like consult the Japanese, and that's in fact what she said. She used the IDZ construction there. And you can just picture her doing this. Like, I would love to see this in video, but she turns to the camera.
Yeah,
that would be great.
With a smirk on her face.
This would have been a great video interview.
Yeah, very funny. Let's see. She also talked a bit about let's see, where was it? The song 4. So continuing on the delightfulness of Moa theme.
Yeah.
Because I think the interview asked about the fact that she's sort of credited with creating it. She talked about it just being like fun and like playful, and she was mentioning that Moa and Sue were talking the other day about like not forgetting that playful spirit, and Moa says, I want to make another song like that. And she said, I've always been good at making up songs like that. I want to have Sue provide a theme, and then I will improvise around it. It could be a song about food, maybe a song about, and she says karage, which is like Japanese fried chicken.
Yeah.
So she says, okay, well, it could be like karage no uta, right? So that's the song of fried chicken. And then she just like, and then in the interview has transcribed her repeatedly laughing.
Yeah.
But I would love to see it. So I'm hoping. I wonder if there's any chance that we actually get to see this on the one edition, or the whatever it is, the what do you call that, the one edition of the best
interesting
album.
I hadn't thought of that. What if it is just this interview recorded?
Ooh.
Yeah, that'd be kind of nice, because then we know what they say. I mean, rather than never understanding it.
Yeah. She also talked about Budokan. And how it was a traumatic experience for her. If you recall, she hurt herself. She mentions, not by remorse, but she injured herself and it hurt and constrained her movements. One day I'll be able to stand at Budokan again with a happy heart and rewrite memories of the past.
It took the interviewer by surprise. When the interviewer left that note in. It's like, wait, what? What do you mean? Like, this is supposed to be a happy, fun thing, and now you're talking about how Budokan was traumatic, and you want to overwrite that memory. So it actually does show Moa being kind of deep as well. So one day I'll be able to stand at Budokan again with a happy heart and rewrite my memories of the past. Which, now that we know that they are planning to do that,
yeah,
there are a couple of places where I think they kind of foreshadowed things. Or things were foreshadowed.
Mm-hmm.
We like the Budokan shows, but happily they'll be able to rewrite it.
Yes.
I can see that. Actually, that does come up a little bit elsewhere too. This kind of like redo mentality of places where things didn't go well or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. So then I guess the next thing is the spiritual message from BABYMETAL on this first part. And so let's see, where's that? So this is of course, I don't know, it's a little bit more behind the scenesy, which is fine. Mm-hmm. I found it pretty interesting. I think I knew. So the first note I took was that, he basically just started off by talking about the prehistory and the fact that both Mini-Patti, which I don't know if we've actually talked about here, but anyway, it's another Sakura Gakuin group that Yui and Moa were in. Eventually, not at this point, but
yeah.
But it was basically, Mini-Patti was one of the clubs in Sakura Gakuin, like the Heavy Music Club was, and it turns out, according to Koba, they existed, and we knew Mini-Patti existed before, but BABYMETAL also existed before Sakura Gakuin. I had kind of liked the kind of like the fantasy of they came up with the school theme first, and then the idea of clubs, and then spun people off into clubs, which is kind of the way I think you're supposed to think about it, but it's not actually the reality of it. But yeah, Sue had just gotten finished with Karen Girls, and they were trying to figure out what to do with her. And I think that was that was sort of like they came up with the Baby Metal idea based on the idea that would be sort of more different. There was already kind of a feeling of experimentalism in the air anyway, but Kobo was trying to find something that would be kind of like, it would get attention, it would be different, it would be shocking, and would be suitable for Sue, who has a kind of a different kind of voice. What did he say? Like a big voice, I think is what he said she had. Yeah, and I think he said something in there that made me think that, like, basically once he came up with the name, he knew this was going to be something. I just love that name. I just can't get over how cool that is, that he just took heavy metal and changed the first consonant.
Yeah, genius.
Yeah. Koba says that metal is like a religion, and that he used to be a metal elitist, but then kind of stepped back to look at the thing and was impressed by kind of like the diversity that there was, and so he thought it would be interesting to have a group like Baby Metal come in from some other angle and connect with all the sort of diverse subgenres. So, and that is of course exactly what the first album is, for sure. Basically just trying to touch all the genres, and that's kind of, I guess, what they've kept doing. He mentioned Rockmicon being a sacred place for metal, which I guess we've heard about, but so he definitely had it in his mind, he wanted to start this there.
I don't know. I found Kova's sections, I guess, interesting a little bit, but nothing really earth-shattering. Like, it was all just kind of stuff he'd said before. And in fact, we've talked about before.
So, in other words, maybe we can skip over this.
Yeah. I mean, unless you can think of something that was really, truly earth-shatteringly new that he said, I don't think we really learned anything from him.
No.
I think it's true that we did talk about a lot of the same stuff when we did like the Koba episode. Every once in a while I do look that up. A long time ago, surprisingly long ago, we did an episode on interviews with Koba. It always feels to me like it was recent.
Yeah.
But I look and it's like episode 8 or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think, he mentions in here being influenced by Seikima 2 and Demon Kaka and stuff, which I think we mentioned more recently than that, but there are things, I think in the Koba parts later, there are interesting things like when we get to the modern era, but
yeah.
So the actual next thing that's in the volume is something that we don't have a translation for, so we'll mostly skip over it, but I'll mention it. It's basically a reflection from Umizawa Naoyuki and Tomonori Shiba, who Umizawa Naoyuki is the editor-in-chief of Hedabon, so Ume Metal, right, that we learned of before from the much maligned YouTube series.
Right.
And also Shiba Metal, Tomonori Shiba, who has written, at least written for Billboard.com, like about Baby Metal, but also I think just an interviewer of them. So they have a little thing in here, multiple page, I don't know what it is, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, 8-ish page thing, which someday we'll know about. I don't know what it says, but at the moment, but so because we don't have a transcription of that. But it's nice that they were doing something. So we'll hear from the Hedabon editor at some point, who I think is the more important of those two, which seems kind of mean. I don't know, but I'm mostly impressed by the fact that this guy started a magazine because nobody was covering Baby Metal. So, okay. So the next thing is the 2014-2015 era Spiritual Message 2, starting with Sue Metal.
So Sue tells the story about Sonosphere, and I think we have heard this before in various different interviews and things like that. But at Sonosphere, they didn't really know what to expect. I peeked out from behind the curtains, apparently at the wrong angle, and didn't see anything but an empty field. It seemed like there should be at least have been 10 people from Japan who came to see us. We resolved to do our best, even if nobody was there to see it. But then it turned out there were actually a lot of people there.
That is quite hilarious, though.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
It's like, oh, wow, there's like 10,000 people here.
But imagine the roller coaster that you'd have if you look out and it's like, oh, nobody came. I guess we can do this anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. That has never happened.
I like that there's just a one-liner from Sue in the middle of this that Paul pulled out and just says, We stand out quite a bit in the catering areas.
Yeah.
It just made me laugh.
Yeah. I could just visualize that. They're sort of like, it's, the way Sue was talking about it, they're kind of like standing back where all the bands, congregate backstage and like kind of pitching their show. It's like, come see our show. It's at 3 p.m. on this stage. Come
see us.
That's what I think of. There's a kind of a lore about or maybe it's actually just plain true about the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, where like that's what you do. Like half of it is like going there trying to convince people to go see your show. But yeah, I could see that they would kind of you could find them in a crowd.
Yeah.
They also talked about, this is the section when they were talking about touring with, the opening for Lady Gaga. And Moa has some delightful stuff about that as well, but, but they all basically said that they were super well, taken care of, and they were super impressed with working with her. So.
She was very impressive.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought that was pretty cool that Sue mentioned was, when they were backstage, I guess their dressing room was right next to Gaga's or Gaga's dancers or something like that. And at some point during the tour, they got invited to join and stretch and get ready for their shows with them. And I think they both mentioned that they both struggled to do all the exercises and stretches correctly.
But it's cool that so they got a chance to work with, someone who has had a lot more experience in the professional end of this. So I think in this section, Sue also took credit for the idea of the gondola that they rode around in the one. She said that she wanted to fly.
Right. Oh. Yeah.
So
Koba basically asked what they wanted to do. And Sue says, I want to fly.
Done.
But yeah, Sue was talking a fair bit about like sort of connections with the audience at various points. And one of the things that she said about that was that it actually, and I can see this, it actually sort of allowed her to see the people in the audience better. She could see the faces in the crowd from the gondola. Right. And even, so even at a small venue, if you could sort of see the people, but they're all jumbled up. And if you're looking down on them, then you can see them.
Well, and with all the lights, you can only see 3 or 4 rows deep anyway. I'm
sure that's also true. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I can totally imagine she's right that that is the one time when they've really had a chance to see the audience. She talked a little bit about Road of Resistance. That they, she sort of feels like they rebuild that. It's a song that they construct every time they play it. Just kind of an interesting take on it. But
I'm not sure exactly what she meant by that.
Nope.
And I don't know if that's a translation thing or just Sue being Sue.
Yeah, I kind of took it to be the latter. Yeah, I actually found this translation fairly readable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's very readable. But you never know. Sometimes it can get some things wrong.
Yeah.
When it's interpreting a kanji. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means.
But she did. I mean, she talked about it for a bit. I mean, like it wasn't just a one-off thing. She's. I don't know. I think it is. She is giving us kind of her impressions of how this is performed and how these things feel, and even if there's not that much to it, that's kind of like how she visualizes it.
Right.
I think we can probably move on to Moz. Once again, there's more to talk about with Moz, I guess.
Yeah, there is.
But okay, so yeah, this is now Moa talking about basically Sonosphere Trilogy, Tokyo Dome. No, where does this end? This ends in 2015, so not quite Tokyo Dome. Although she talks about it a bit, but okay, so. Oh, this also included her birthday show in Cologne.
Mm-hmm. Literally the first thing she says, I've seen these places in a textbook. Talking about going to Cologne and Paris.
Yeah.
So she was excited to go travel overseas and see these places.
Yeah. This was, I'm sure, a really big deal trip for them,
Oh, totally.
Seeing all these places. And so it's possible that I interpreted this a little bit, but I think I understood what she was saying. That she talked about what she found different about people overseas. They're bigger, they're different size, and they have tattoos.
Yeah.
She like the Deep L translation was that they had graffiti.
Oh,
Right.
Which I thought was pretty hilarious. But I think that was what she was referring to. And she actually may have been making a joke as well. I mean, like she may have said essentially graffiti, but I think what she was referring to was tattoos. And I guess that has something to do with the people that they would run into in metal festivals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, so the interviewer was kind of guiding her through some of this stuff. So she was brought her attention was brought to her Cologne show where she was, her 15th birthday show where she got to sing Headbanger. So
She wasn't nervous at all. She remembers enjoying it.
Yep. The show was the day before her birthday. Her birthday is July 4th. And then after that show, I guess they were flying. They were on a plane. But so she pointed out that her birthday that year was 25 hours long due to like flying over a time zone.
Written in her schedule book that it was 25 hours long.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, just to even notice that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and okay, so here's another error that I think people had talked about this before. Like I feel like I had heard about this before, but apparently at Sonosphere the monitors, the in-ear monitors weren't working at the beginning, and eventually, like about halfway through, they managed to get it going.
Mm-hmm. So
I do feel like this isn't the first time I'd heard about that, but I mean, again, it's one of those things I want to go back and look at,
right?
to see. Okay, so does anyone want to talk about the hair?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Right, so when they supported Lady Gaga, Moa says that Lady Gaga is super famous, and it said that she only sees her support acts once, but she came to watch BABYMETAL many times. She was very kind and helpful, and every time we saw her, her hair was a different colour. Also, a bit of her hair got caught in my glove. I still have that.
So good.
To be honest, I would as well. I'd keep it.
Oh, that is so funny.
Yeah.
I like to think that she's got like a Beauty and the Beast, with the rose and like the glass dome. Just a little thing of
who knows
Gaga
what
hair.
other things that she has that she's collected over the years.
Yeah. Again, I can totally picture this interview taking place. Again, mugging for the camera a little bit, or like looking slightly embarrassed while she
breaking
says,
the fourth wall.
But then delightfully, like, I still have this.
Yeah.
Like not embarrassed at all.
Good.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. Well, there's one thing that was a little bit confusing in there that came up, when people were first looking at this translation. I was talking about Road of Resistance because they premiered it at I think O2 Academy Brixton, but she felt like she kind of identified with it because in this time period 2014-2015 she was working as a warrior trainer, and I don't know what a warrior trainer is a translation of exactly.
Huh.
I was thinking maybe what that meant is that she was like taking martial arts or something.
Okay.
Oh, maybe.
That seems kind of sensible too. I could imagine Moa doing that.
Yeah.
In fact, I think we have open class, the photos from an open class from Sakura Gakuin, I think, right? Of them doing some kind of stick training.
Kendo.
Okay. I would prefer to refer to it as stick training, but feel free to use the actual word. She mentioned that Yava was actually the choreography was hard to remember. It was fast and tough, and it expanded her range as a performer. She noticed something about the geography of the trilogy shows. So this is highlighted on the Tokyo Dome video, but essentially the trilogy shows were organized in such a way. One was at the Saitama Super Arena, right? One was at Makuhari Messe. One was at the Yokohama Arena. First of all, S, M, and Y, right?
Yes.
But also in the center of that is the Tokyo Dome, geographically.
Yes.
So which is amazing. I mean, like Koba pulls off some fairly amazing like numerology level stuff.
Has anybody actually done that and actually drawn a straight line between each venue to see if it does hit Tokyo Dome?
I just trusted the opening video on the Tokyo Dome show.
I mean, it's close. It's close. I'd be curious to see if it actually hit it.
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that he managed to get an S venue, an M venue, and a Y venue to do that is just insane. Anyway, yeah. So Mo was impressed by that. She said it gave her goosebumps. And they traveled. They played in Mexico. Koba mentions this too. And Mo mentions that she took a lot of photos of, like she was reviewing her photos from that time, and she found that she took a lot of photos of orange juice.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So on brand.
Yeah. Took a lot of photos of orange juice in Mexico. Generally, I learn about culture via food. I'm in charge of the food. I don't really miss Japanese food, really, except for my mother's rice.
Oh. She's definitely a foodie.
Yeah.
Yeah. and a collector too. She's very pleased about the collection of country stamps in her passport. Yeah, she's just very clearly like, just wants to like meet everybody and make friends with everybody.
Yeah, she clearly loves traveling as well.
As long as there's food.
Yeah.
Another thing that showed up in her part here that got some comments, when the translations were new, is the fact that Ma revealed that they, just to practice for outside shows, they would just go to the park and rehearse.
Yeah.
Overseas and in Japan.
Isn't that wild?
Imagine seeing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's insane to me.
Yeah.
But, because they're out of costume, out of makeup.
Probably got face masks on as well.
Oh, well, that's also true. Actually, I hadn't thought about that, but I mean, like even in the previous world, they might have.
Yeah, they tend to, don't they?
To build stamina, we'd go to the park between tours and rehearse. The three of us used to practice in the park together, both overseas and in Japan, taking used to outdoor environments and direct sunlight.
Yeah,
it's just wild to me.
But so if you saw them, I mean, like you might think that like, here's a little group doing a dance cover.
Yeah. I don't know. It's really endearing picturing like Sue with a boombox on her shoulder walking up to the park, plopping it down in the grass and hitting play. And then here they go.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, in my head, then, the next thing that happened is that the tape got eaten. But of course, this is probably an era well beyond tapes.
Yeah.
But back in the olden days, gather around, children. There used to be audio tapes. I think that was mainly it. She talked about them being all together all the time, including over Christmas that year. The beginning of the strengthening bonds. Anyway, so next part is Koba Metal. I think we have decided that we're not going to spend a lot of time on Koba Metal. He did kind of reveal from a behind the scenes perspective that basically once they found an open date at Budokan, that determined the schedule of the album release, because the album came out just before that. And he said it was pretty hard to put that together.
Yeah.
To try to. So he did say that he wanted there to be like a story, and he wanted it to be kind of telling a story that evolved from night one to night two, and so that meant changing the set and changing the performance, and I think both the set list and the set. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they added railings on the second night.
Well, right, exactly. For example, one change to the set. He did talk a little bit about like, initially Gimme Chocolate, that video, went viral and got some overseas buzz, and he talked about using like trying to reply to people using Google Translate, which is I can sympathize with, but it does feel like,
yeah,
somebody at Amuse should be able to do this for him.
Yeah.
You would think.
This really is, there are aspects of this that really does seem like, it's the project of a couple of people in a garage.
Yeah.
But
well, I've always known that they are pretty autonomous. Amuse just kind of lets them do whatever they want.
Oh, I guess he mentioned that, he was very pleased to go to Mexico because that's where Lucha Libre is, in a sacred place for professional wrestling. So he and the staff all went to watch a professional wrestling show while they were down there. So flipping through, the next thing we have is a special interview with Yoshiki from X Japan, which we do not have a translation of. So someday we might. And now we take a break to bring you to photo galleries and things. So as we go through the pages here, the first thing we have is the Legend of a Baby Metal Apocalypse Part 1, 2012 to 2015. And it just shows a bunch of little photos.
Yeah, and I don't think it's photos we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I think I can identify most of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is mildly sad, but so it goes. So we can see them. I think the first one is at Rockmicon. And then, it goes on. You can see them in white at Legends E, and in their sort of which one was the one where Black Baby Metal's dressed up in the little Christmas outfits? Legend D, I think. Oh, 97. 97. Yeah. I could tell that by reading the thing that says right next to the picture that I was looking at. Next interesting thing is the Baby Metal T selection.
Yeah.
So this I thought was cool. It is basically I don't know, 10-page review or something of all of their official T-shirts.
Because it's not all of them, is it?
Well, I was going to ask that. Does anybody know?
Because there's the Red Mass like chibi design T-shirt, isn't there? The one where it's kind of like them. One of them's curling their hair and kind of like doing their makeup. It's very, very rare. That was only sold at the Red Mass. I think the first Red Mass show they did.
I see.
Yeah,
okay.
It's going for over £200 on eBay.
I am not. I can't.
I'll link it on the chat.
Okay. Yeah, I can't imagine it, but I actually am not. I have not been collecting the shirts, and I'm not super knowledgeable about them.
It is the one I am dying for.
It is interesting to see them. Go ahead.
I wouldn't have noticed a missing shirt, I don't think, because it looks like I thought it was all of them until Callie just mentioned the one was missing.
Right, I got it.
But so if one is missing, then there's always the risk that several are missing.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Exactly.
And there's actually one on there that I had no idea. I've never seen before. It was the Baby Metal Deathmatch Tour 2013. That's on the second page. Mm-hmm. It's like a Triforce with an eye in the middle.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've never seen that.
Also, the Loud Park 13. I've never seen that one before.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've seen those either.
I think the rest I've seen. How do I attach?
Some of these. I think I would like to get the Legend 1999 one.
There you go.
I hadn't seen that before either. It sort of looks like other ones, but it isn't the same. And of course, like the later ones, of course, we've had some reprinted as well. So
yeah.
But anyway, I guess if you want to know if yours is official, if you can find it in here, it is.
I should look in the other mook I have that has all the merch in it. And
the one for the Palladium one is nice.
No,
it's not nice.
No, it's nice, but that's not what I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay. All right. I think we're somehow talking about different things, but yeah. So I mean, basically, the shirts I have are essentially like the 2018 and 2019 ones, and that's about and the reprinted ones from the streams.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, it's cool. This thing is not actually very big that I'm holding in my hand. It's smaller than letter size. Slightly bigger than Hedabon, I think. So the next thing is the the third era interviews. So this is 2016, 2017. And we start with Sue. there's another couple sort of behind the scenes kind of things here. She starts by talking about karate and having a strong emotional attachment and actually feeling somewhat embarrassed about like the theatricality of the choreography until they started playing it live. But it's true, they probably get to act in that song more than any other. So she said something that I don't think I understood entirely. Maybe we know this, but she said after the first song at Wembley, she felt a weird vibration coming from under the stage, and she found it hard to stand up. What was the first song, by the way? Do we know? What did Wembley start with?
Wembley, Baby Metal Death.
I didn't look that up.
And then it was Awadama Fever, and then Ine.
Okay.
Yep.
So I wonder if there's any way to see what she's talking about, and it is unclear. I think it was even unclear to her in the interview whether this was something that she was, shaking herself, like feeling internally, or whether the actual mechanics of the stage were shaking.
So many things to go back and look at.
Yeah. So I do want to look at this again to see if there's any evidence of this, because I certainly never saw anything.
No.
Apparently Wembley was really tougher than we thought.
Yeah, I had no idea that they actually were disappointed about it, which was just crazy because it was such a big show.
Yeah. And I think of it as like a really kind of like a highlight show that I would show to people and stuff. But Sue talked about being pretty, like scared for the first 3 songs.
Yeah. Yeah. She said that you and Mo were hugging and crying afterwards, but not because they were so overwhelmed with accomplishment, but because it seemed frustrated and disappointed. But maybe they didn't do their best, or they didn't feel the crowd. Well, I don't know.
Yeah. And Moa does talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, she does, yeah.
And I believe Mikiko also did. And what's weird is that, again, it seemed like flawless. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sue talked a little bit about the fact that, as they started to become more known, and like they had more than their initial just sort of like shock value of existing, that the sort of bar started getting raised. People started expecting them to be good, and so they had to be like even better. And she talked a little bit about doing the music awards with Rob Halford, where they did the joint, the singing of whatever it is, Painkiller and Breaking the Law. So Sue talked about how she'd never sung with anyone, and particularly, not a cover of someone else's song. And she didn't really know what she was supposed to do, and kind of hung back. And, Rob was sort of like encouraging her to come forward and, participate more. And he was really nice. And she noted that he's so old. Like she was, I mean, it was sort of in passing, but it was kind of like, she was kind of impressed that somebody like who's so old would be like this. And I think the thing that I thought was funny is that Koba also says this. I don't think of him as being that old, but everybody in Baby Metal seems to think of him as like an actually elder statesman.
I think maybe it's not so much about age. Maybe it's more of a respectful, because he's been around. He's been doing this forever.
Yeah.
A respect of age.
I think that probably is the right interpretation, but it still jumped out as me as funny. Just because it was like a short-lived theme there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was going to go back and look at this, and then I didn't. But in the Tokyo Dome, first night, where did they appear? Did they appear at the top, or did they appear at the end of the runways?
They appeared at the very top.
At the top for road resistance. Okay. And then on the crosses of each runway for the second night. Okay, yeah, that's partly what I couldn't remember. But Sue was, one of the things that she was reminded of when she talked about this was how, like, the audience was kind of annoyed with themselves for not seeing them appear. Like, Baby Metal appeared in a place where they weren't expecting them to be. Mm-hmm. And so, which caught the audience off guard and made them annoyed with themselves, which I thought was kind of funny. Like, I think she delighted in that. And one thing that is kind of, I think of a standout thing about the Tokyo Dome performance was the performance of Tales of the Destinies, which is like this freakishly complicated song. Mm-hmm. I knew that they must have spent a long time, practicing it and stuff like that, but they did, that was, everybody talked about this song.
Yeah.
So Sue says the song didn't have a rhythm. Well, it has one, but it doesn't.
It's tough.
Yeah. So the choreography is super, super difficult. They spent a long time working on it. And so this was the part that just blew me away. And I don't even know how to understand it even. But she said about 10 seconds into the song, I lost track of it. I lost track of the sound for almost the whole song, which was really frustrating. I mean, it's a super complicated song to begin with. And it sounds like she lost the click track.
I think it's not so much that it was a technical problem. It's that she lost the beat in her head.
It could.
That's kind of how I interpreted that.
Yeah, I wonder. It sounded to me like she just plain lost the sound, but it could be that she lost track of where she was or something. I watched this a lot. I've never seen a particular error in it. So what I thought it was very funny. Like she ended in this like weirdly fierce note. It caused her to be afraid to perform it because there's a high chance of failure. It's a complicated song. But on the other hand, I'm frustrated with the song and I want to get revenge on it. It's like, yes. All right. Heck with you, song.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, it seemed flawless. So I guess that was the main stuff I wanted to say. There's a little kind of weirdness about the Big Fox Festival that the interviewer kept trying to push. I don't know if we want to talk about that either.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of getting into the interesting parts. Yeah. I think
the thing about the Big Fox Festival is that was like Yui Metal's last appearance, right? And so the interviewer kept asking. I guess he didn't. I don't know if the interviewer asked Koba this, but definitely asked Sue and Moa. Like, okay, so now that you know that Yui Metal's gone, does that bring an added significance to the Big Fox Festival for you? And they both said, "What? No." It's pretty funny. They're both like, "No, it means exactly what it used to mean." So they, in a way, they didn't take the bait, I guess. But it was just pretty weird, actually. I mean, I don't really interpret it as a dismissal of Yui Metal, but they basically just didn't decide to add extra weight to that show.
Mm-hmm.
Sue says it was the final show of the Fox Festivals. It was also the last time of the three of us, but there's no new meaning to be added to it. And partly that's notable because the interviewer did the same thing to Moa, and Moa did the same thing in response. So the next thing is Moa Metal's Spiritual Message 3, where we're talking about metal resistance and the One. And so they're basically just talking about the fact that there's an English version and a Japanese version, and usually they scheduled it for like where they were playing, but they did sing the English version intentionally in Japan at one point. But she said something which I thought was a little amusing, which is that so she said the song has the spirit of one for all for one, which was popular in rugby, and the lyrics have a Japanese feel. I thought, what?
Rugby?
Rugby. Suddenly, like, I had no idea that Moa even really knew what rugby was, but apparently she follows it enough. She follows it much more closely than like the Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
The first place she thinks of one for all and all for one coming from is rugby. So anyway, so she does actually, Moa kind of like flips back and forth between this like, playful and serious side, but so she did say, again, kind of, I think somewhat surprisingly, the truth is I wasn't happy about the Wembley show. We practiced, but something just wasn't reaching us. Not sure why that happened, but both Yui and I felt the same way, both frustrated by it.
That's so crazy to me.
Yeah.
That they were both hugging and crying backstage for some reason.
Right. But not because they just accomplished something.
Yeah. And even Sue was like, the hell, guys?
What?
What's going on?
It was so good. I don't understand.
Yeah. But anecdotally, too, from what I remember reading it, you didn't call it out, but I think Sue had mentioned at that point, saying something to the effect of, wow, they really are like twins.
Oh, yeah. Right.
After she saw them both crying.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I also talked a little bit about, interacting with Rob Halford, singing along with them backstage. And apparently he gave Moa a bracelet as a gift. And Moa said that they hung out more than Moa had expected. That they were sort of like, I guess Rob just like, found them amusing to hang out with and spent a lot of time with them. I don't know when, actually. I mean, I guess this must have been just like festivals, generally. It wasn't really clear when she was talking about.
Yeah.
And I guess Tokyo Dome is in this part. So Moa basically said she expected to be nervous about Tokyo Dome and then wasn't after all, and mentioned being very close to the ceiling, which I guess, from the very, like at the very top of the Tokyo Dome stage, which that is so high. That's really freaky. Whenever I see that, just how tall that is.
Uh-huh.
I think somewhere it was mentioned that it's like 6 or 7 stories high. It's really
big,
way up there. And she also talked about Tales of the Destinies also. She just, she doesn't know if she's getting the rhythm right or not. It's, you can understand it in a small rehearsal, but once you get to the Tokyo Dome, the sound bounces all around and she doesn't know what she's listening to, what everybody else is listening to, what everyone else is dancing to. You just have to just do it by muscle memory, basically.
Yeah.
And she said she tried, actually the other thing that was kind of interesting and a little bit more behind the scenes is like, she talked about trying to dance it recently and just gave up. It's like she can't do it anymore. But the other thing is that they actually experimented with a bunch of different possible choreographies and she doesn't even remember what the actual one is. These poor people. It's amazing. It's amazing that they can manage to produce something this apparently flawless, given like how last second and sort of complicated all the organization is. She talked a little bit about the hanging out at the support shows with all the amazing people they were supporting, and repeatedly both. I mean, maybe this is just a Japan thing, but both Moa and Koba referred to the Red Hot Chili Peppers as Lechli. Which took a little, like it took me a while to figure out what was going on in the translation, but that's who they were. They're the Red Hot Chili Peppers all smashed into a couple syllables.
Interesting.
I wonder if they have something similar for Bring Me the Horizon, because that's also extraordinarily long to say.
Maybe.
Yeah, she though did kind of go on a little bit about how kind of like friendly they are with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They're hanging out with Flea all the time, and Chad the drummer always came to visit backstage. And Mo was surprised about him dressing up as like a commie band member.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, we have this very nice footage from some show where Chad as Chad Metal is presenting a birthday cake to Sue.
Yeah.
Who I guess wasn't expecting it.
No.
Or at least she acted very well.
I just want to mention she talks about the 5 Fox festivals and Big Fox again doesn't really add any significance to Big Fox. But she did mention that she really likes Red Fox, the all-female audience, because it smells good. Yeah. It smells like dancing in a bed of flowers.
That was very funny. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Moa is just, I don't know. It really does seem like she would be just hilarious to hang out with.
Uh-huh.
So the next thing is Koba on this era. He talked a bit about just how difficult Wembley was, so I guess in a way, he didn't say quite the same thing about like not being super happy about it. He in fact, I think said, I think we did pretty well, but everything was different. The ticket sales, the venue setup, and not much preparation time. Longest show in the history of the band.
Mm-hmm.
Talked a little bit about the Colbert Show, but basically just, the staff was very professional and the sound was great. And the Tokyo Dome was a goal achieved. So, I don't know if I believe this, but Koba says it was originally going to be one night and the sales warranted a second night. I always sort of thought that was kind of just a tale they told that they were always going to have 2 nights, but.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was right.
But anyway, but it was interesting that they, Koba was talking a bit about how Tokyo Dome, it's a baseball venue. It isn't a concert venue. The acoustics are bad. The restrictions on what kind of stuff you can bring in. And he was worried about like people being so far away that they kind of lose focus on the show, which is why he put the thing in the middle so that it'd be at least as close to everyone as it could be.
Right.
and with a huge screen that you can see from every angle. And this is where the substage was 6 to 7 floors up.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But there wasn't a lot of time either. So he said it was like building an amusement park and tearing it down in 2 days. And there was a typhoon coming. So.
Did you go to that one, Kevin?
No.
Oh, I thought you did.
You almost did, right?
So I discovered them October of that year. So I knew it was coming. This was the first big show that I kind of followed live. But yeah, no chance. No plans.
That would have been amazing to go to.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, it's pretty amazing. The media that we got out of it at the end is pretty amazing. I do often suspect, I mean, I guess you know this from Legend Metal Galaxy, but I do often suspect a little bit that, like, being there is its own experience, but at the same time, you don't see much and hear well. Sounds bouncing around, and people are jumping around in front of you and stuff.
I can't speak to Tokyo Dome, but the arena shows I have been to in Japan, I thought the sound was actually pretty good. I mean, it's not like listening to a high quality CD or album rip or Spotify, sitting at home with your headphones. But it's definitely good enough. You can tell what's going on. And yeah, it's an experience, right?
Yeah.
You're not really there to watch, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not like you would watching through your TV. And they've always done a good job of having big ass screens so that when you do look, you can see what's going on.
Yeah, it does seem like they're quite concerned with the experience in the venue. Mm-hmm. They're also quite concerned with the view of the camera, but
yeah, Koba mentions 360-degree screen so everyone can see. They had the screen the size of, I don't know, a small moon at Legend Metal Galaxy. So yeah. it's if you want to see it, you can see it. Yeah,
I mean, people at Legend Metal Galaxy actually, it was almost too big. Like it was ants in front of a big screen.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I guess the one thing that Koba did say that I was going to mention is that after Tokyo Dome, he wanted to take a break. So people sometimes talk about the velocity that they had coming out of Tokyo Dome and how that kept going. But if it had been up to Koba, he would have taken a break, except that suddenly the Red Hot Chili Peppers invited them to go do that with, be open for them. And he thought he couldn't turn that down. Mm-hmm. So, and one thing led to another, and then they just wound up like just continuing on without a break.
Yeah.
But it was sort of interesting. I have heard people promoting, the idea that, that was the way to do it. He knew what he was doing back then, that he just took the momentum and ran with it. But no, he was planning on he was planning on stopping.
Dude wanted a vacation.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So the next thing in the book is some interviews. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I believe that it is basically editorial people and journalists from a variety of like industry publications like Metal Hammer and Kerrang, and there's somebody from United Talent Agency London, and these are all, so there are people who have been interviewed clearly in English, but it has then been translated to Japanese, so I don't know what they said. So we have a number of these that we don't get to hear about yet, but at some point we will. And then the next thing is a special message from the person currently in charge of Rafmecon. Also don't know what that says. It's 2 pages of Japanese text. And yeah, I guess there's a whole pile of things now that we aren't going to get to talk about. But next, an interview of Koba with Demon Kaka from this. Now I forgot what it's called, but this sort of lore master that Koba was emulating. So we've now made it like halfway through, and there's plenty of stuff left to talk about. The spiritual messages 4 and 5 are the ones that sort of connect with the modern era, and so we'll start again there. We're on page 114 of the book, and so we'll next time we'll sort of do part 2 of this and whatever news we get in between now and then as well.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So, good plan.
All right, so let's do that. So that's it for this episode. You can join us on the Baby Metal Podcast Discord server to continue the conversation. Rating the podcast on whatever platform you listen on will help people find it, so please do that. You can email us at feedback@babymetalpodcast.com, right? I think.
Yes.
We'll be back here in about 2 weeks or something. We hope you'll join us then, and until then, see you.